Hey, hello. Welcome, friends and companions. Welcome to the Random Entertainment Channel. I am Enigmatic Joker. Sci-Fi and fans meet on this channel for fan chits about their beloved books, movies, series, and franchises. We also talk about food, drinks, music, and sports. We are called Random because we will discuss everything that involves entertainment, including movies, series, books, and music, but especially Doctor Who, because it's the best sci fi series of all. Random, because we will broadcast on non fixed times, actually on many different times. So, and it also depends on which time zone you live. So, you need to subscribe to this channel to know what time the broadcast is. So, more random things. Random also because we will have no guests or different guests. It depends who wants to join me in the live stream or panel. If you want to join me in a live stream, feel free to contact me via Discord, YouTube, and we will look what is possible. My Discord server is Random Entertainment Channel, and you can check Doctor Who, and you will find the server, and you can contact me on the server. You can send me a DM, and yeah, we can meet each other, and we also have a nice chat, especially a build chat about Doctor Who. So, and yeah, I'm looking forward to meet you there. Also here on this YouTube channel, of course. We are now in a current series about the companions of the Doctor. We now arrived at the 12th Doctor, Peter Capaldi. As today we will discuss Clara Oswald, the Impossible Girl, Nardole, the nice guy, and Bill Potts also. And actually, Clara Oswald is also a companion of the 11th Doctor, so there's also a little bit context there. So, cheers, mate, and lots of fun this live stream. And of course, we have a very special guest star today on this channel, and we all know him now by name. It's the only one, Sedeko.
Hello.
Hello. Well,
How are things? Mhm.
so
Oh, yeah.
today, 12 Doctor companions.
Yeah.
Uh, how many times have you seen the stories of the 12th Doctor?
Um, I think I've only seen them once, really.
Okay.
I haven't tended to rewatch many of them, to be honest. Curious enough, when the Zero first started, there was a leak actually of the first 4 episodes, and I did
Mhm.
actually get to see an early version of Listen before it actually transmitted, so I kind of knew what was ahead.
Perfect. Yeah. But
Um,
I was always said that Clara Oswald was also a companion of the 11th Doctor. So uh, I think you have seen her in the 11th Doctor story in first time live, or
oh, oh yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
saw it. Yeah,
yes,
yeah. She made a surprise appearance in Asylum of the Daleks. Like it'd been promoted that she was going to be the new companion, and we thought she would join the series after Amy and Rory left. But she actually made a cameo appearance in Asylum of the Daleks, in which she was, they meet her, and she's this crashed human, but she's landed in the middle of the Dalek asylum, and she's actually been slowly converted into a Dalek, and basically the Doctor realizes all the time he's been talking to her, he's been talking to the human side of her that's completely in denial about what's happening to her. But
yeah,
she sacrifices her life to save him, and then he meets her again in Victorian England, and then she dies again. She sacrifices her life to save him again, and this is kind of where the Doctor begins to realize that there's something's very strange going on here. That he's had, he's
yes,
met this impossible girl who has died twice,
yeah. Impossible
and
girl,
indeed.
very impossible.
Hmm.
So this is a very, by the way, also a very interesting companion. Um, we had the last live stream we we talked about River Song, also a complex companion because of their all different timeline. But this also is an interesting companion because Clara is actually is a little bit a sort of watchkeeper of the Doctor in all his incarnations. In fact,
Yeah. Like the third time the Doctor meets Clara, he meets the original Clara,
yeah,
and this is before Clara became splintered in time, as it were.
yeah,
And he's kind of trying to he's trying to figure out who she is, and she hasn't. She's destined to appear in his time stream, but obviously he's meeting Clara before she even knew that, and she's just a
yeah,
well, she's a babysitter nanny. She's also doing I think she's doing a college course at the same time, and basically she's the Doctor kind of first encounters her because her consciousness is being uploaded by the great intelligence has this plan to upload everyone's consciousness into its mainframe,
yeah,
and she's the first one. The Doctor, she actually contacts the Doctor. She's given the Doctor's phone number, the number to her TARDIS,
yeah,
and because of that, she managed to just contact him.
yeah. That's
She
right.
manages to contact him, and that's how that's how they meet, and that's how he's first drawn to save her out of all the others have been uploaded to the mainframe, and
Yeah,
so they beat the Great Intelligence that time, and she agrees to meet up with him regularly. Like it's not like most companions, they're immediately on board for the adventure.
hmm,
But she's like, well, I'm going to give you a schedule. Let's meet every Tuesday or something and have an adventure. And so that's kind of what they have, that kind of routine where he'll
yeah,
pick up every so often. Now he doesn't let on to her that he's met her other selves yet. He's still trying to figure out who she is.
yeah,
So he's kind of keeping quiet about it, and he thinks she's keeping quiet about the mystery of her, but she isn't really. She doesn't know. She's yet to know about it.
yeah,
The next adventure together after the Great Intelligence business is Rings of Akaten, and that's an interesting one because we learn a bit more about the backstory of Clara there.
yeah.
Like, oops, sorry, pardon me.
Hmm?
Like, basically, Clara has this diary,
Yeah,
and the first chapter of the diary, like when you open the diary itself, the first page, but basically before the first page, there's a leaf, and the Doctor's asking her about this, and he's like, "Well, why? What's that about?" And she basically tells him it's not a leaf, it's page one. And you find out that's because it's the same leaf that fell from a tree. Before Clara was born, when their parents first met, it met because basically uh, the the leaf fell into her father's face and kind of that caused him to stumble into the road, and he nearly got hit by a car. It was a woman who pulled him out of the road and saved him, and that's how he meets Clara's mother, and
yeah,
that's how So basically, page one is because the leaf was the beginning of it all. Because I think the father was a bit he had this kind of quite flowery quality to him, and I think Clara has it as well. She kind of talk in a very flowery way about stuff. And I'll say, well,
yeah,
this leaf was significant. It was it was by random chance that leaf brought us together for the first time. And so to Clara, it's page 1 because it's the diary, because this was the leaf that led to me being born, led to my parents meeting. And we also learned that there was a time when Clara, her mother died. I believe it was, I forget how was it. I forget what happened to her mother, but she did pass away, and
Yeah.
the doctor was kind of keeping an eye on her. And so that's kind of where we learn a bit more about Clara's backstory, and also she does tell, in that episode she meets Mary, this young girl who's being groomed to be the Queen of Years, and she doesn't want to. She has to perform this very complicated lullaby to their planet god, and she doesn't want to do it. She runs away, and Clara has to kind of give her a pep talk, and basically Clara tells the story about how when she was 6, I think she got lost in Blackpool or something, and she was, she talks about that, that it was a significant memory for her, and it kind of shows that kind of maternal quality to Clara because she is a nanny, and that she has. The thing is, she shows an enormous amount of faith in Mary because she says, "Look, I don't think you're going to get it wrong. I think you're going to perform this well, and I think you're going to do well." And she is kind of, she gives Mary the burst of confidence she needs, and it's a very sweet moment, I think.
Yeah.
So I suppose we want to get on to how. Right, so Clara, like I said, she's got this kind of maternal. Sorry, what'd you say?
Oh yeah, no, about the person.
Oh yeah, well, she's very mouthy. She is she's not usually when someone's mouthy, you think of them as quite kind of they think before they don't think before they speak. Clara's a bright girl, I would say. She's very clever. But she tends to shoot from the hip, if you know what I mean. She's very blunt. She'll kind of, like when she's dealing with the hologram of the TARDIS, she immediately kind of goes, "Oh, you burn your cow." She kind of speaks what's on her mind. She kind of says it like it is, if you know what I mean. She gets an impression of what the TARDIS is like. And there is the kind of maternal quality as well. She's a kind of, she leans towards being a caretaker of kids. She to babysit, and obviously there's that moment with Mary as well. She's kind of she's a, she relates to children very well, I would say. She's gobby. She's quite adaptable, actually. And only a second adventure with the Doctor, she kind of, and he's kind of showing around this alien culture on Akaten. She basically, he kind of, he introduces her to all these kind of very different alien creatures. And she kind of, she has to, she has to learn the language. Learn how they communicate very, very quickly, and she does pick it up quite quickly, I think.
Yeah.
Another interesting scene is in Hyde when she meets the telepath, the empath. What's her name? Jessica Rain's character in Hyde was this empath woman.
Yeah.
Hyde. Let's see. Emma Grayling, and she's the assistant of Professor Alec Palmer. And Clara, I suppose this is the thing. Clara's quite shrewd, and so she sees she sees the she can tell there's a crush going on with Emma Grayling, and Clara doesn't quite get it. She's like, well, if you're telepathic, can't you tell, or empathic rather, can't you tell if he feels the same way back? And she has to say, look, it's doesn't work that way. You can misread signals. You can, signals can get mixed up, if you know what I mean. And
Hmm.
so that was a kind of a lovely moment. Now it's also significant that because she's an empath, the doctor does actually ask her about Clara and says, well, what's her secret? What's going on with her? And she says there's nothing. She's just an ordinary girl. You've built her up as something she's not, if you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
and then the next significant one is Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and that's where finally the doctor actually asks her. Like they're kind of they're driven into the heart of the TARDIS, and it's everything's malfunctioning. And finally, the doctor asks her, "Well, if we're doomed, I might as well ask you, who are you really?" And he starts getting paranoid about it. He's not sure because you know i- in a previously she'd asked him, "Who am I to you?" And he says, "You are the last mystery worth exploring." And I tend to think, to a degree, that I mean that Clara kind of came at the right time in his life. He kind of needed, he needed someone to draw him out of his slump with Clara. Some of his slump over losing Amy and Rory. And so she kind of and he kind of does say, well, you are sorry about this. I seem to be echoing a lot. Um yeah, okay. I think yeah, so basically she what was I?
A journey to the center of the TARDIS, and
Well, yeah. What I
um,
meant was that there's a side of the doctor that's kind of, kind of a bit besotted with Clara, beguiled by her. Um It's a side of him that's protective of her as well, protective toward her as well. Um but there's also a side of him that's paranoid about her. He almost wonders, is she some kind of a trap or something? It's like he leads to a lot of conclusions in this because he spent weeks chatting with Clara and he doesn't know who she is. He doesn't know
yeah,
what's going on with her, and he seems to ruminate on who she might be. And at this point, she's starting to get kind of quite, unnerved by his behavior, by his, and she's saying, "Look, you're beginning to scare me now." And it's like she's like, "What is he on about?" kind of thing. Um, and then I think they reconcile, and there's almost that moment of him, kind of understanding she's not the mystery he thinks she is, kind of thing. And so they have that kind of reconciliation of sorts. I mean, it's forgotten though,
yeah.
but they still kind of reconcile to a degree. It's kind of a cathartic moment. And then the next significant one is name of the Doctor. And that is
Hmm.
the one where yeah, the Doctor finally gets a message about that his grave has been discovered, and basically the doctor takes
Transalore.
Clara to Trenzor, yeah. I'm eating some noodles at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So Clara's actually kind of has a psychic link with River at the same time. I mean, she has a psychic link with River and the Pastor Paternoster gang with Jenny and Vastra.
Yes.
And basically, she has to kind of take the Doctor to. Yes, she and the Doctor have to go to Trenzalore because he fears that if a grave's discovered, then if his grave's discovered, then it's all over. And so basically, what they find to cut a long story short, they find the Doctor's TARDIS, the future Doctor's TARDIS, and it's this bloated police box, and he basically says that's what happened to TARDISes when they start to decay. They start to actually the exterior of the TARDIS starts to expand, and it can't kind of maintain the so basically it starts to resemble its internal dimensions, because the TARDIS is huge inside, small on the outside, but so as it decays, it begins to actually bloat to its actual internal size outside. And so the Doctor has to lead her through into his grave, because his grave is basically in the TARDIS, his future grave, that is. And as they go in, Clara begins to remember the events of Jenny from the center of the TARDIS, and she remembers the way that the Doctor kind of told her that he keeps meeting her at all these different times, and eventually, of course, they get led to the Doctor's grave, and what's there isn't a body; it's basically this kind of plasma energy, kind of form of plasma energy, what the kind of ectoplasm, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And the Doctor says this is basically all my time streams. It's where I've been, where I'm going. That's the remains of a Time Lord when a Time Lord dies. And the Great Intelligence, determines that they can go into the Doctor's time stream, and basically the Great Intelligence just wants total revenge on the Doctor. It wants to kill him at every point in his life and undo his victories. And so it goes in to basically kill him again, throughout history. Um, um, and the Doctor and Clara realizes that she has to go in and undo the damage. So she has to kind of go in where the Great Intelligence was supposed to be, and she has to save the Doctor. So I think by landing in the Doctor's time stream, she kind of ends up. It's not quite explained, but I always took it that by going in, she ends up substituting the Great Intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
So she has all these kind of thousands of alternate lives. Each one, of course, is is there to just intervene in the Doctor's life just a bit to save him from going down a wrong path where the Great Intelligence planned a trap for him. So she does end up saving the Doctor, and that kind of explains how basically Victorian Clara and Clara, Oswin, the half Dalek, Clara was possible. And I do think, looking back, those versions of Clara, those splinter versions of Clara, they're kind of a bit more like Clara. I think is quite level-headed, but she has kind of flights of fancy. fantasy. And I think these splinter cells, almost like a dream cells, they're a bit bolder, they're a bit more daring, like Victoria and Clara, she kind of manages 2 jobs at the same time. And Oswald's kind of just very kind of, super confident,
super confident.
And I think that's kind of, and also she got, she also got great computer skills. She got these kind of, she's retained computer skills from being part of the Grey Intelligence's Wi-Fi mainframe. She kind of, it's almost like she was left with kind of exceptional computer skills that, she didn't have before.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, she's able to save the Doctor again and again. And eventually the Doctor leaps in and saves her.
Yeah.
And she's the first companion, I think, to discover the Doctor's dark secret about the War Doctor, because he's there in the Doctor's time stream. She's like, "Well, who's he?" And he has to explain to her that there's a difference between being him and being the Doctor. And he says that that the Doctor is a title, it's an oath, it's a promise, and that the War Doctor is the Doctor who broke the promise.
Yeah.
And then we skip ahead and we don't meet her again until Day of the Doctor, by which time she's become a teacher at Skull Hill School, and that's kind of her new life.
Yeah.
And is there anything interesting to talk about in Day of the Doctor with Clara? She does kind of, I suppose you do kind of see various shades to Clara. She is quite kind of, when she's kind of surrounded by the Zygon, she's very, very quick to figure out the code she needs to activate the time teleporter and save the Doctor. So she's very resourceful. She's very observant. Very cocky. I mean, there is a kind of quite cocky quality to her. She is someone who kind of, she's very much, she loves quipping. She likes to be a bit of a smart ass, as they say here in Britain. Or smart ass in America.
Yeah.
And then when she kind of meets she's taken back with the Doctor to the events of the Time War, and they end up pressing the button, like they're about to press the moment together. All 3 Doctors, the 11th Doctor, the 10th Doctor, the War Doctor. And Clara's kind of, she's heartbroken. She's never really seen, like, she's been told about the Time War, but she's never seen this side to the Doctor like this. She kind of says to him, "Look, when you told me about who you were, who you were when you waged this Time War, and you did this deed that destroyed Gallifrey, I never envisioned you. I never envisioned this particular incarnation doing it. I had this, so especially had this mythic idea of the Doctor, and it's like she couldn't quite envision the Doctor she knew doing it. I think she's kind of got this separate idea of who the Doctor is, and she could never envision the Doctor she knew pressing the button. And gradually, of course, the days say, but I don't know if it's Clara that, I think Clara probably played a bit of a part in persuading him. And she was the first to kind of, like, for most of the story, the Doctors are reunited, and both the 10th Doctor and the 11th Doctor have the impression that the War Doctor, that this incarnation of the Doctor, their younger self, is actually that he's done the deed already. He's already destroyed Gallifrey. And it's Clara who susses he hasn't. It's Clara who susses that he's not made that decision yet. And she says, "Look at your eyes. I can see that you're younger than them. You've not had that. You've not gone through the trauma that your older selves have."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So again, it's that shrewdness.
So?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah?
Do you have any notes on Clara?
Yeah. Actually, I have some notes. I already mentioned some character traits, character things about her. But also in the context of Name of the Doctor, many times you can also see that indeed you see the sacrificing part of herself, actually. As she has had more than other companions of the Doctor, she has some more insights who the Doctor is, what he does, actually. So says some more for knowledge about things
Yeah.
that the Doctor does. So that is very significant. This is also good that you mentioned that, because
Well, I
that
think
is also, yeah, that's also that's also the whole
well
part of the T splinters. Yeah.
the self-sacrificing thing. I mean, I think in Name of the Doctor,
Mm-hmm.
it's like I think in that situation she knew that she was doomed anyway, that they were all doomed anyway,
Yeah.
and that she was basically taking a gamble that if she leapt in, then she might be able to kind of that basically she could, it was a one chance. It was a one chance to save the day, to save herself. Really, that she was kind of risking it all to save it all. If you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Um,
yeah.
Also other notes about Clara. That she is jolly, clever, and warm-hearted. Uh, and this also often displayed tendencies that led her to be labeled by the Doctor as bossy, a little bit bossy.
Hmm.
Also at yeah, you already mentioned with her mother and father, she has also close relationship with her, and she also was very caring and compassionate. For what
Hmm.
example in the Ice Warrior Grand Marshal Skaldak, for example.
Well, yeah, she's
Um,
sh that was the episode where she had to be the brave one. She had to kind of
yeah,
she had to go into that kind of the room where Skaldak was chained up,
yeah,
and the Doctor had to kind of talk her through the interrogation. She had to kind of basically quiz him. So she had to, and you can tell she's very nervous, and I mean, she copes well though. She copes, she performs the task, but it's very much the Doctor's in her ear, kind of almost holding a hand through it, also kind of basically telling her what to say. So she's got a. That was, I think, her first real trial of courage, if you know what I mean.
yes. She stood the test.
Yeah.
Hmm. Also, and one
And
thing, Clara was willing to stand up to people to defend her rights and was annoyed on being seen as anything less than a person. So,
hmm,
also one of the things that Clara was does, because when Doctor actually later revealed that she reminded him of a friend who had died, Clara told him that she would be happy to travel with him, but
hmm.
not if she were reviewed as a ghost or someone else. She was a
And
very separate, unique individual. That is also mentioned in the Rings of Akatan, for example.
yeah,
Yeah.
basically what it is she has this. Whilst the Doctor's, whilst she kind of offers the leaf to to the Akaten god,
Hmm.
she basically she basically has flashbacks, and she has this flashback where she remembers being at her mum's grave, and she remembers the Doctor being there, before she officially met him,
Yeah.
and it kind of starts to dawn on her that he was there, and she asks him about it, and he kind of makes a fib about, well, I went to that graveyard to visit someone I lost, and I think he kind of hints something about you remind me of them, and is he talking about Amy and Rory, or is he talking about Victoria and Clara? It's not
Yeah.
quite clear, but I think Clara picks up on it that he's and she kind of gets quite affronted about, well, look, hang on, I'm I'm not who you think I am. I'm not this person you had in your life. And she said, I'm not going to compete with a ghost. I can't compete with whoever this person was. I'm not going to try. You know, you. I'm not a replacement for the person you lost. Basically, is what she's saying.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of quite. So you know, she's capable of giving tough love, of saying, well, look, you know, if you're bereaved, doesn't matter. Well, it matters, but if you're bereaved, you have to kind of. I have to be firm with you here about, you know, look, just I'm not. Don't get me mixed up with the person you lost.
Yeah.
You know.
There's also a willingness to defend her rights in his story from the case of the moon, when she's called the 12th Doctor for abandoning her and forcing her to make an extreme difficult decision. So and also this also is also defending her rights again in that story.
Well, should we get to there? Because we like when I
Yeah.
last left off, we were still talking about Day of the Doctor. So
Yeah.
we've talked about Day of the Doctor,
Hmm.
and next it's Time of the Doctor, and that's basically the 11th Doctor's final hurrah, isn't it? And
Hmm.
it all starts with Clara kind of, you know, she had to impress her parents by claiming she has a boyfriend, and so basically she has to phone the doctor and says, "Couldn't you come visit me and fill in for my boyfriend? Yeah, pretend you're my boyfriend and act like my boyfriend." And he kind of gets a bit too into character as that. And you know, she's also trying to cook this turkey, and she's not a very good cook. She kind of botches that,
Oh yeah.
and so basically, and she doesn't realize that this is going to be their last adventure. Like, so it starts quite jolly, and they go into Christmas Town. And it turns out that actually they've landed on Trenzalore before the events. You know, basically it's before the name of the Doctor, and the Doctor's basically starts telling her that this is where I'm going to die. You know, this is the final battle, as it were.
Hmm.
And so it is kind of quite like the Doctor keeps sending her away, and yeah, because he wants to kind of keep her out of harm's way because there's going to be this major battle on Trenzalore between all these warring races, the Daleks, Cybermen, the who else was there? The Sontarans. Like, you know, it's an onslaught of all these different races who hate the Doctor, and of course you got the Silence as well. And you know, so basically she he sends her away twice, and each time kind of when she ends up kind of being reunited with him, and the last time she's reunited with him is basically it's Tasha Lem, you know, the boss of the Silence, who basically head of the Silence. Um, who has to kind of recruit her. And by this point, the Doctor's a really old man. He's been on Trenzalore thousands of years now, helping, you know, and she's in his final moments. She's the one who begs the Time Lord through the crack. Look, you know, can you save him? You know,
Okay.
and basically they do. You know, it's kind of like it's all desperate. All she can do is this, and the moment she says it, she feels like it's futile, but it pays off. The Time Lords respond, and they give the Doctor an out. They give him an extended regeneration cycle.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Clara is with the Doctor at the end when he regenerates in the TARDIS.
Yes. Yeah. There's
And
also a
she's
character
very,
trait of her that he is very caring for the Doctor and is really defending his rights to Time Lords.
well, she's very attached to him, and she doesn't
Yeah.
really want to let him go. And it's like I can imagine, because it's like she's known him suddenly rapidly turn from the young Doctor she knew to this older man. It's like he's basically aged rapidly before her, and
Yeah.
she had this idea that she was going to know him for a long while, and it's like it's already already he's aging before her, and it's like she's running out of time with him, and that's to her that's the saddest part is of not being able to have that life with him. That she thought it would last forever, or she thought that it would. She thought they'd grow old together, I suppose, as friends, traveling
Mhm.
companions, or whatever she
Yeah.
hoped. And it's like suddenly, he's aged rapidly on her. All the years have kind of disappeared, but she wasn't. She didn't go through that with him, so it's very alarming for her. It's very
Maar,
devastating for her,
but,
really.
but was that of influence on how you look at the Doctor in this second incarnation?
Um, Possibly.
Hmm.
Um, the so basically in Deep Breath, the Doctor's
Yeah.
regenerated into his 12th self.
Hmm.
The
Yes.
and I think Clara just doesn't is struggling to relate to him because he's very deep in the post-traumatic, post regenerative trauma. He's got amnesia. He he can't figure out the basics of how humans live. He's all over the place. He's very scattershot, and she's not really able to reach him. And she does say at one point to because Vastra and Jenny basically take them into their care, and she says, "Well, can he change back?" And hints, of course, that she was in love with the 11th Doctor, and that's the version of the Doctor she wants to be with. So to her, it's like she's lost the man she loved. She's lost the incarnation of the Doctor she loved, and that's kind of
Yeah.
it's always quite consistent with Clara. It's like when she when she talks about the Time War. She does say, "I didn't envision your Doctor doing that. I had this kind of nice image of you as the one who
Yes.
didn't press the button." And so
Hmm.
it's like the Doctor's changed, and she's not too sure it's the Doctor she knew anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very important. Yeah. To mention it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this the Doctor.
Hmm.
The Doctor does go AWOL as well,
Hmm.
and she has to kind of trace him by looking in the personal ads for the Doctor, and she's put this personal ad in the Victorian paper, and it's a very kind of clever personal ad where you actually have to turn the paper over because it says and to get the clue, and so basically she finds the Doctor in this restaurant. But the thing is, the Doctor came there because he saw that ad in the paper and thought Clara sent it, and he starts saying, "Well, this is laid out by someone who thinks that someone who's a kind of egomaniac, needy game player." And she said, "Well, thank you for clearing that up, because that's what you are, Doctor." And says, "What? I thought you sent it." And then and then it kind of
Yes,
dawns on,
that's
wait a
right.
minute, are you saying I
A
was
little
an
confused.
egomaniac? Yeah, exactly.
A little
It's just
confusing. Yeah.
well, she takes a once she realizes that was he was describing her, she takes offense basically,
Hmm.
and then they land in the pit of the robots and the and basically Clara has to fend for herself because the Doctor kind of runs away from her. The Doctor runs away and he doesn't really. He, when they get separated, and he basically abandons her. So
Yeah. There was
and
also thing about that the 11th Doctor phoned Clara in that story and reassured her about the next incarnation.
no, no,
That is
that's
completely
later.
serious. Yes,
That's
later. Yeah.
later,
Yeah,
right?
that's
But
later.
right, okay. But the thing is, it's here that Clara has to fend for herself. So basically, she has to try and pretend to be one of the kind of the robots by basically one of the kind of walking mannequins by pretending to be like them, which means she has to not breathe at all. She has to hold her
Hmm.
breath,
Yeah.
and she can only hold it for so long before she collapses, and that's when she has a flashback to her worst day as a teacher when she was. Sometimes it's this thing where you get a supply teacher at a school and they haven't got the respect of the kids,
Yeah.
and the kids just act like
Yes.
absolute nightmare. They know they can get away with hell, and they can basically drive them to teacher to their kind of really stress the teacher to breaking point. And
Burnout.
kids will do that because they can be merciless. And so
Hmm.
she kind of says, I'll so she's basically very intimidated by this group of kids, and she learns something from it that kind of comes in useful when she confronts the robot, which is that she did the panic thing. She threatened to suspend them all, and basically they say, well, go on, do it. And so she says the same thing to the robot. She says, threats don't work unless you deliver. If you make the ultimatum, you got no way of bargaining for cooperation. So she kind of holds him back, and it's kind of this is where we see that she's scared, she's nervous, but she's also sure. She's kind of she knows she has to be brave in this. But in the end, the doctor does. She has faith still that the doctor will be there to save her, and
Yes.
faith is justified. And then, of course, the Paternoster gang save them. And it's
Yeah.
at the end that she very nearly leaves the doctor. She kind of says that she's kind of done. She doesn't know the doctor anymore. And it's then that she gets a phone call on a mobile from the 11th Doctor just before he died,
Yeah.
just before he regenerated, rather. And he's basically giving her the talk about, um, you've got to be there for my future self. He's more scared than you are. And
Yeah.
she decides to honor that, and she kind of, and she kind of embraces him in a hug. But the Doctor's not a very huggy type in this
No.
incarnation. Like the 10th Doctor, 11th Doctor were very huggy,
Yeah.
and the 12th Doctor is not at all. He's very kind of allergic to hugs.
Yeah.
I did make Charlotte laugh once when they were talking about they were doing a watch along on Noel's channel. They were doing a watch along of one of the Peter Capaldi episodes. I think it was Listen,
Hmm.
and it's the bit at the end where the he's kind of he's up on the TARDIS. Clara kind of sneaks up by him and basically starts hugging him tightly, kind of thing. And he's like, "No, I don't like the hugging. I don't like." But she's kind of insisting on being huggy. I just said, I
Hmm.
bet the Doctor's thinking, right, okay, I'm putting a cat bell on her now.
Yeah.
So basically, she's on board for the ride with the Doctor now, and so it's
Yes.
so
The
we're
ice is
basically
broken.
up to date now.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
It's very interesting, by the way. Okay, also in the 12 Doctor stories, that Clara is also every time the 12th Doctor is looking for confirmation if he's a doctor, and every time Clara has an answer for the moment that is suitable for the moment.
Well, he's a point of familiarity, isn't he?
Because he's doubting himself if he's a good doctor. So he's asking for affirmation from Clara,
Yeah,
and
because
every time
she's
yeah,
she knew his former self, she knew him, so it's like she's the
yeah,
one he looks to who knows him best.
yeah.
And that, of course, was in Edge of
But
the Dalek, and that's where the Doctors
but is this
basically have
is
to
this
take.
uncertainty of the 12th Doctor is this grounded in the fact that she actually liked the 11th Doctor so much that he is doubting himself in comparison with him?
Um, I think it's a
Because
case
yes,
of I still think he's dealing with the regenerative trauma.
mm-hmm,
He's still kind of trying to forge a sense of himself, and I think what's kind of significant about Series 12 is that, sorry, not Series 12, Series 8 with the 12th Doctor,
yeah.
rather.
Yeah. Yes.
Is that suddenly it feels like a much more unsentimental universe. Like, I think the 11th Doctor was kind of young in his prime. He fit into the groove of things quite well. And the 12th Doctor doesn't. And so he's kind of a bit more, he just is naturally more, reflective, pontificating. He's still kind of trying to figure things out. He's trying to figure himself out. He's trying to figure out who he is.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the Time Wars played a part as well. Like, he's had that grief and guilt over the Time War, but he's kind of now questioning, well, what was it all for? I didn't really succeed after all. I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't know. I think it's. I think it is just a question of regenerative trauma.
Yes.
Still trying to piece himself together. And the main reason he's trying to is asking us.
Hello.
Yeah, sorry, I just had to take the headpiece off. Echoing again.
Okay. Now, but I think this 12th Doctor, in comparison to other previous incarnations, is more looking for himself and looking more for affirmation by the companion of Clara.
Yeah.
Actually, that every incarnation has its own issues with the new regeneration in some case, to some extent. But the 12th Doctor, he's actually he's searching for himself. He's looking for himself, and he's looking for affirmation by Clara. So this dynamic is during the first in the 8th series is you can see that as fan on screen actually.
Yet the dynamic is very, very strange in Series 8. Clara, the Doctor's changed, and Clara seems to change in a big way.
But because they are struggling in relation with each other. You can see that, for example, also on the Memory on the Orient Express when they actually made up. But
well, yeah. Like, Into the Dalek is the first big rift they have because they enter the TARDIS. They have to go into this. They have to shrink themselves and go inside this damaged Dalek.
Yeah.
And the Doctor Clara has this strange rant at him about his conceit about Daleks being irredeemable, which I must say I never quite understood, because I thought Clara would be the last person to kind of think that there was more to the Daleks than just what they are. She's been a Dalek in her past life as Oswin. She knows how they think. She saw what they did to Gallifrey in Day of the Doctor. So I don't know why she's suddenly angry at the Doctor for having this conceit about Daleks being irredeemable. It was, I didn't quite like that bit. I thought it was kind of didn't quite make sense. It felt like I felt they lost handle of the character there. And they just kind of made it a bit of a control freak, really, just kind of a bit.
No, actually, she's also one of her character things is that she is a control freak sometimes.
Yeah, but I think they kind of with Series 8 they kind of turned that up to 11.
The overacted. You mean overdone, or?
Yeah, overdone. They they settled on that as a dominating trait, and I think that's
okay.
That was
a little bit of irritating for you.
Not just irritating. I thought it was a bit kind of it became an exaggeration of that trait, and I think it kind of.
Oh yeah, yes, that's right. Yeah, I understand.
It seemed like she was they kind of turned it
exaggerating. Yeah.
into like I think she was sensible head before this. Then she was sensible headed, but a bit bossy. But now they kind of made the dominating trait to the point where you're not quite sure where's the level headed side of her gone. It's almost like she's just become almost this kind of. I think they took away the nuance really, and they kind of decided, well, if that's a character, then that dictates that we have to have her act like in this completely irrational way all the time. Or make her prone to really irrational moments that I don't think she was prone to in Series 7. So yeah, I think this is when Moffat started losing grip on who the character is.
Yeah.
And then of course there's Robots of Sherwood. Of course, we learned that she's a big Robin Hood fan, and it was always a dream to meet Robin Hood. Then of course there's Listen, where she has a date with Danny Pink from her school, who's this ex-soldier. He served in Iraq, I believe, and he's still kind of got post-traumatic stress disorder, so she's kind of having to manage that awkward date with him because he's got his issues, she's got her neuroses, as it were. And the Doctor kind of takes her on a tour through. Well, basically, the Doctor's on a bit of a monster hunt, and it turns out that he's basically chasing shadows. And she learns in the end that actually what's caused this fear the Doctor has is that he had this moment in his childhood where someone beneath his bed grabbed his ankle, and she accidentally lands on Gallifrey, and she actually is in the Doctor's barn when he was still a child, and she's the one who grabs his ankle. It's kind of this instinctive thing, which is kind of saying, look, and she gives him this kind of comforting talk about, about fear and that kind of thing. And so she's kind of, again, it's that kind of side of Clara that's kind of good with kids, kind of, quite good at calming, a nervous child. And the same with, I suppose, she sometimes, she has moments where she has to she'll get kind of quite anxious about stuff, and she'll kind of have to reassure herself that she can do it. So she's kind of got that. That's a kind of a quality to her, I suppose you could say. And so she carries on seeing Danny Pink, but she doesn't tell him about her life with the Doctor because, I mean, obviously it's very, very kind of hard to explain until eventually in the event of the caretaker, where the Doctor poses as a janitor to investigate a mystery in Coal Hill School. Basically, she kind of has to. Basically, it all kind of comes out like Danny Pink witnesses the event. The Doctor's attempts to capture this. What was it? The robot, that Blitzer robot, that wall robot, and basically that's kind of where the cat's out the bag. As she has that talk with Danny, and Danny kind of does say to her, "Look, you got to." He kind of gives her an ultimatum about him or me, and I can't see you if you're going to keep secrets from him or something. To keep secrets from me about him, kind of thing. And then, of course, in Kill the Moon, that's the next episode. That's when the rift between her and the Doctor happens, and it happens because she insists that the Doctor has to take Courtney, the little brat who gave kind of Clara a hard time at the beginning. She kind of says, "Look, you got to make it up to Courtney. She's going off the rails since you were very indelicate with her feelings," which I think shows there's that side of Clara that's professional first and forgiving as well, because she should have no real reason to have any love for Courtney, because Courtney was an absolute horror to her at the beginning, but But she said, look, my profession comes first. It's, I have a duty of care to the kids. And so the Doctor takes them all to the moon of the future, and that's when they make a discovery that the moon is actually hatching a new life form. But there's the fear because they encounter a bunch of astronauts who've landed on the moon specifically to deliver a nuclear payload to the moon. And they figure out there's a life form hatching there, and so they say, well, we've got to terminate this life form, because if this life form hatches and the moon kind of splits apart, it's going to cause absolute devastation to Earth. And Clara takes a moral stance about this and says, look, we're not just going to kill some innocent life form. That it's not the creature's it's not the creature's fault. It's not this creature isn't evil. It's not a monster. It's not going to destroy us for you know out of intent or anything. It's just hatching. It's just doing what nature dictates. It's not right to kill it just because we feel threatened by it. And this is when the Doctor kind of says, well, you're on your own there. He kind of tells her that, well, I'm not going to influence events here. I'm not going to change the outcome. The humans have to make the decision themselves. So Clara stays behind in the belief that she could persuade the astronauts not to kill the creature. And I think this is the thing. This is where she has to take responsibility, because the episode is really about responsibility. Because the first thing she does is she says, "Well, look, I'm not going to make this choice for everyone, because if I'm wrong and this creature does destroy Earth, then it's my fault for doing what I thought was the compassionate thing." So she actually makes this announcement to the people of Earth of, well, look, send us a signal. If anyone who wants to, who thinks we should let this creature live, leave your lights on, and we'll see it from space, obviously. And if you don't, then turn your lights off. And the vote's put to it's put to the vote, and obviously the people of Earth decide to turn the lights off. And so that's basically Clara nearly presses the button, thinking, "Well, look, I'm doing the will of the people here." But I think at the last moment she's thinking to herself, "Well, wait a minute. All those people who said, kill the creature, they're not here. They're not actually having to press the button. They're not close to this being. They don't. It's very easy to make that decision from a distance. Doing it up close, I can't do it. I don't think they would be able to do it." And so she takes it upon herself. I'm not going to kill this creature. And I think that's kind of the doctorish stance. And this is there's a theme this season of her learning to be kind of think like the Doctor. But the Doctor eventually rescues them, and the creature hatches. It turns out that when it hatches, the shell does no. The shell kind of disintegrates naturally. It doesn't do any damage to Earth, and the moment it hatches, it kind of gives birth to a new moon. And then there's the rift between her and the Doctor, because she is absolutely fuming at him for leaving them in the dirt, and she's again, it's like shooting from the hip. She's trying to find the words to say why it hurt. She's saying it was cheap. No, it was patronizing, and she was kind of trying to, it just all comes out of her, and he's just he's very curmudgeonly. He's like, he doesn't. He's kind of adolescent about it. He doesn't really seem to have listened to her at all. But she basically says, "I'm done with you. Go away. I don't want to see you again anymore. I don't want to be put in that position ever again," kind of thing. And because she said she was terrified of, she said, "I nearly didn't press the button. I nearly did the evil thing." And so she hated the whole ordeal. But then, of course, the following week, she kind of goes with the Doctor again. She has it's like this last journey with him, which is the Orient Express adventure, of course. And I think there that she learns a bit about the Doctor's ways, and that he sometimes has to sacrifice. He has to sometimes make sacrifices. He has to sometimes understand there's some people you can save in this, and there's some people you can't. And that's been a theme in Into the Dalek as well. That business with there's the character of Ross, who the Doctor kind of tries to reassure him, look, if you don't move, you'll be fine. And but yeah, and yeah, but it turns out the antibodies were always going to disintegrate him. And he says, "Look, he was dead already. I was saving the rest of us." And that's kind of the thing of all the Doctor has to kind of just have a look. This is not going to be an adventure which everyone lives. Okay, I have to be realistic about the fact that some people are going to die, but if I play my cards right, then enough people will live, and the sacrifices will be worth it. And that's kind of what I think. By the end, Clara's learned that, but she's also really missed traveling with the Doctor, and so she ends up lying to Danny and to the Doctor about, well, I'm she kind of lies to Danny on the phone and says, I'm not traveling with him. But she then lies to the Doctor and says, well, Danny says he's fine with us traveling together. She's Clara's becoming kind of almost a compulsive liar now. It's like she kind of can't quite rationalize what she's doing anymore. She's just making up stuff to justify continuing these journeys with the Doctor. And it's really flatline where she gets to stand in as the Doctor, and it's a bit of a throwback to that bit in Cold War, actually, where she faces Skaldak, the Ice Warrior, where the Doctor has to kind of talk through her ear and tell her what to say. And it's very, very similar in Flatline, because the Doctor's basically the TARDIS shrinks on the Doctor, and he ends up trapped inside. And so she has to adopt his role, and he has to kind of feed her what to say, and she has to kind of, by practice, play the role of the Doctor. She even says, "I'm the Doctor," and she's kind of playing that role of the Doctor. So there's that. That's kind of where you kind of see the Clara continuing to become more and more Doctor-like. By the way, sorry, did you have any notes on Kill the Moon?
No.
No? Okay.
Um,
Okay, I thought maybe you might have more, because I did stop you when you got to Kill the Moon in your notes, because I said, well, we need to do a bit of backtracking first. I thought maybe you might have, that there might have been more you had on Kill the Moon to
no,
say.
well, I think I will put it on private chat. Um, um,
That's fine.
you can go further.
What'd you say?
You can go on.
All right, okay. So then there's in the Forest of the Night, where there's that solar flare activity, and in response, we see kind of a new there's a very unique day where the whole of London starts kind of sprouting kind of trees and flowers and bushes. Basically the getting kind of swamp with overgrowth of trees and plants. And this is kind of where we see more of the business of the Doctor. Well, this is kind of where you see more of Clara's professional life as a teacher, where she's having to mind all the kids, and she has to kind of lead them through this whole ordeal. And the Doctor is about to evacuate the children, and Clara's kind of talking about, well, she kind of she's asking, is it right to save them but abandon their parents, if you know what I mean? And let's see. Okay, all right, I got what you mean. Right.
I cannot really respond to the things because you have another way to explain her character. I have more approach of I'm taking all the stories and I'm looking for similarities in character traits. So this is the reason I jumped from Mermaid Orient Express to Deep Breath, and so, for example. But you have an approach to go story to story, and that's the
Yeah,
reason. But I think that
I
we
think kind of. Well, I think it's like if going from story to story, certain that's when traits show, yeah, that kind of thing. And certainly as she goes on, kind of signs of growth appear. That she's. Just a minute. Oh, okay.
so
All right.
I another another approach of the live stream. Because do you do everything chronologically? I must now switch between the notes, and it's probably confusing for me. So, but it's
Oh, okay, right,
for
okay.
me, it is a learning point for me for the next time to actually have a conversation about of a preparation for this live stream.
Okay.
But
Um,
so I yeah. So
yeah.
yeah, I
Um,
try to jump into your story, but I have need more time to consider or to
okay.
yeah.
Right, I took the lead a bit, didn't I?
Hmm.
Um, well, I suppose. Look, okay. I mean, we could go back to
Because
synopsis. But
if I want to do if I want to do a clear story, I must go back to the first notes. But that's not I think it's not the time to do that. So I do now your approach.
all right, okay.
But
Right. So I suppose but the big finale, of course, series 8 was, of course, where the big event in her life was when Danny died. He was killed in a road
Mhm.
accident while they were on the phone together. And this is where we see a bereaved Clara. Kind of it does seem to change her a big way, and this is when we realize that Clara can be very, very devious indeed. She can be very, you know, and she at this point she is determined, and this is kind of obviously a trait of Clara throughout. She has got that kind of quite determined go-getter quality, but this time it's like she's determined to go against fate itself. Like Danny's already dead, but she thinks she has a way of forcing the Doctor to reverse time so that they can save him. And she thinks of everything. She basically schemes the entire thing to knock the Doctor out, take all his keys. Um, and it's the same thing with her lying to Danny Pink about this double life she has. She puts on the act. She plays her usual happy-go-lucky self while secretly she's plotting, and like she's very careful to keep the act up. And that's when, of course, she takes him to that volcano world. Now, and I've got a bit of a theory about the scene where she basically maroons the Doctor on Volcano World, but it turns out that she didn't really apply the sleep pill to the Doctor properly, and it ended up that he applied it to her at the same time. So basically, this is all a hallucination for her. But as she really, as that it was partly her plan to take the TARDIS to a volcano world where she can basically burn all the Doctor's keys and force them to kind of capitulate to his demands. But it's like the volcano world itself. It is almost their state of mind at the time. It's very kind of very furious, very bleak, very unstable, very volatile. But it's like there's a strange calm to it as well. It's kind of strange, like it's almost like she's being remolded in a way, like the lava. And so basically, she kind of it's the same thing with the robot. She kind of when he challenges and says, "No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to take you back in time." That's when she kind of ups the game. She throws all the keys away and says, "Well, now what are you going to do? I've got the one key now," and she's determined to, you know, sh she's at breaking point, and the Doctor kind of pushes her, and it's then that he reassures her that she hasn't really done it, but it's like she was prepared to do it just to save Danny. And at first, like she thinks, well, no, I've betrayed the Doctor. He doesn't want to know me, and he's basically, she's very accepting of it. Well, look, I did betray him, and he says to her, look, is that famous line? You know the line, don't you? He says to her, of, "Do you think I care for you so little that betraying me would make a difference?" Yeah, that line. Do you remember? It's one of
Yes.
Capaldi's famous ones. Yeah,
Hmm.
and anyway, that's what leads them to Missy, and for Clara, it's a chance to make contact with Danny Pink again, because basically Danny's consciousness has been uploaded into Missy's mainframe, ready to be
Hmm.
downloaded into the the new breed of Cybermen that she's creating. And it's at the end of that where basically she meets Cyber Danny. Basically Danny Pink is still there, and he's half Cyberman, and it ends up being her who persuades him to betray Missy and to destroy all the Cybermen in one go. To basically thwart her plans, really. And at the end of it, she basically gets Missy's blaster and she's about to kill Missy. And that's when the Doctor steps in and says, "No, I'm not going to, you're not a killer." And basically, he's promising, "Well, I'll do it. I'll basically finish Missy off." But it ends up being the Brigadier who kills Missy instead. Cyber Brigadier does.
Yeah.
And this is when the Doctor and Clara decide to part ways. They both lie to each other. Like, she says that Danny came back and saved her. Well, basically, that he saved himself, and that he lies to her and says that he found Gallifrey again. That Missy gave him the coordinates to Gallifrey. They both lied. They part ways on a hug, and well, they meet again. Then of course the series, there's the Christmas special where she's still bereaved over Danny Pink, and that plays a part because she is so bereaved over Danny Pink that when they get infected by the dream crabs, basically she stays in the dream because she's still with Danny there. Danny's still alive there, and the Doctor keeps trying to get this message to her of, "You're dying, you're trapped," and she is horrified, but she turns away and says, "I don't care. I'm happy in this illusion. I don't care that I'm dying." And eventually, of course, the Doctor has to go in and talk to her. So it's like, if he hadn't done that, she would have been willing to knowingly die, because to her there was still not really any life worth living if Danny was gone, unless she had to return to a world in which she could lose Danny the way she did. I think it's that whole thing of she's struggling to adjust to this world in which terrible things can happen that can't be undone. Like, usually the Doctor would save the day for her. He'd ensure that things turned out right, and she's really having trouble adjusting to to a life in which that doesn't happen, in which grief happens and it's not undone. Sometimes the worst thing does happen, and I think that's, to her, it's a real blow to her. It's like the world, because I think in a way it's almost like there's an element of Clara that can be a bit of a spoiled brat, and I think this is her realizing that she really can't get her way in life, but because of this, she's having this adjustment of facing life itself. Because it just seems like such a cruel world now to her. But as it happens, of course, the Doctor talks her through it, and by the end, they're traveling as companions again. Next significant story, I suppose, would be, I don't know. I think we've covered most of her traits in Series 8, and there's not much is added to things in Series 9.
Series 9 is significant because of the hybrid story.
Yeah, that's
And
so
that is,
we could skip to Face the Raven. Then we could go to Face the Raven, because that's when Clara, I think, she really kind of she makes her final. She makes a big decision to sacrifice her life, doesn't she?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think
But the,
she kind of goes back. Well, she
the
kind of goes
but
back on. Yeah.
the whole thing about, oh, sorry. The whole thing about a hybrid is, if you watch the conclusion of Series 9, um, actually, the hybrid is the combination of Clara and the Doctor all together.
Yeah.
And that is significant because that tells something about the character of Clara. Because the combination, Clara and Doctor, became very complicated, and
Hmm.
it, yeah. So it says something about personality of Clara in combination with Doctor.
Well, I mean, do you want to go into your notes again? I think we could probably, because we're about to wrap up Clara. We'll get to the companions after, I suppose. But do you
Yeah. I think that we will do. I think we will do Nardole and Bill Potts next time.
All right, okay.
My th- think it's best to now. I'll only do Clara, but yeah.
Hmm.
So Series 9. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Um. Well, we'll wrap it up with Clara then today.
Yeah.
So the big thing is that in Face the Raven, she's reunited with the lad she met in Flatline. Yeah, the one who was doing the community service. He was the graffiti artist. Um, you can tell, like I said, I've only watched most of these stories once. Yeah, Rigsy. Basically, her and the Doctor meet Rigsy, and he's got this tattoo on the back of his neck. But the thing about the tattoo is that it's counting down. The Doctor kind of studies Rigsy's back, and he determines that the tattoo is basically a countdown to his death. Basically, when at the end of the countdown, he's going to die, and he's trying to determine how Rigsy could possibly have got that tattoo. And he believes there's basically a trap street, and they basically track down this trap street in London. Um, and through it, they meet a Shilda. by this point, the Shield is this kind of. She was a Viking girl who the Doctor basically granted immortality, and once he did, of course, she was able to outlive the ages. She was able to make contact with all kinds of alien life forms, and she created this kind of refuge for herself within this trap street, which is kind of hidden from most of the human population. They would pass through it. It's a bit like a perception filter. Most people just wouldn't see it until the Doctor and Clara kind of go looking for it, and that's when they find out that it was a Shield that put the countdown on Rigsy as a trap to lead the Doctor to her. And Clara takes a gamble. She thinks, okay, for some reason she has this idea that if Rigsy transfers the tattoo to her, then it'll kind of it'll give them more time. Basically, it gives them a kind of a bit of a lead start in deciphering the curse, and basically, yeah. I think maybe she believes that if she has the curse, that if she has the curse, then basically it'll kind of increase the Doctor's likelihood of working to save her, and because she feels like she feels like Riggsy's. I think she feels a sense of unfairness, a sense of injustice that Rigsy has been given this sentence when he didn't even know much about this, even about this alien life. So he's not too sure what he's supposed to have done wrong to deserve having this put on him. So she feels strongly about that. And there's also the fact that Rigsy has recently become a father, like he's got a newborn baby, and Clara can't stand the thought of that baby growing up without a dad. She feels like Rigsy's got something to live for, and Clara decides that she's going to put her life on the line for Rigsy's sake. But she's overconfident. I think she is this confidence that they'll save the day, and that she'll make it out alive as they always do. Because at this point they've been traveling together for some time now, and so I think she's got complacent that it always works out. She always kind of emerges from each adventure alive, victorious, that kind of thing. But this time it doesn't quite happen, and it turns out that because of the transfer, Clara's now going to face a death sentence. And Clara makes decisions. She kind of once she realizes she's going to die, and that Ishilda can't undo that, she kind of lays down the rules. She says, "Well, look, I'm going to die on my own terms," and she does tell the Doctor, don't take revenge on my behalf. Um, remain the Doctor. You're the Doctor. You're supposed to be the compassionate one who doesn't break his moral code. And she says she'd be horrified at the thought of the Doctor, because she's horrified at the moment the Doctor starts getting vengeful, starts threatening her. She starts saying, "Doctor, this isn't you." She's horrified at seeing this change in him, and she says, "Enough. Just forgive. Don't take revenge. I'm going to face my death." And that's the other thing, is she decides she's going to face her death with dignity. She's not going to run. She's not going to flee. She's going to embrace the moment, face the moment, kind of thing, and she's going to die bravely. So then, of course, there's Heaven Sent and Hell Bent, and I mean, in Heaven Sent, Clara's not really in it. Basically, the Doctor kind of has hallucinations, like he's still dealing with the grief of losing Clara. So he kind of conjures this imaginary version of Clara to seek advice from about how to navigate the grief, navigate the maze. And it's like he's imagined Clara just as she would be. Like he's kind of almost got this impression of Clara who's like most like Clara's behavior. It's like he's kind of almost he knows Clara enough to think of her as predictable, to have this predictable idea of Clara and what she would say or do in each situation. And basically Yeah, because obviously that's what he wants. He wants, it's like I said about Ghost. It's the whole, sometimes someone will do anything for a last moment with, with a lost loved one kind of thing. And I said that about Rose and her father, didn't I? Back in our 10th Doctor stream. And so, in the end, the Doctor kind of breaks the rules and he basically goes back in time and he saves Clara. And she's really not. She's really freaked out by this because the moment he saves her, basically her heart stops beating. And she doesn't have a pulse. Like, she's basically frozen in time. She's kind of kept in a kind of forever young stasis kind of thing. And that's really freaky to her. And it's the same thing with the Shield. She's horrified that the Doctor's kind of become much more ruthless and prepared to, he's more ruthless, he's more reckless, he's more vengeful, and he's bit where he shoots the general on Gallifrey. It's like he's shocked at what the Doctor's becoming, but at this point the Doctor's way out of her control, and they hide together in the catacombs, and he tells her that story about that someone in his youth, someone back in the academy who I think deciphered the Matrix or something, and she kind of looks at him kind of, it was you, wasn't it? She's kind of she knows him kind of thing. She's got that kind of knowing quality about her kind of thing. And then in the end, of course, the Doctor has to erase his memory. Well, the Doctor was about to erase her memory in the hope that by erasing her memory, her survival will pass unnoticed to the Time Lords because she's not going to have any future foreknowledge. But instead, she kind of sabotages the device so it erases the Doctor's memories instead. And she does say, I was prepared to die, and I'm still prepared to die. I don't. And she says, tomorrow is promised to nobody, but I want to keep hold of those memories. I. It's the same thing with Donna. It's kind of, it's like I don't want to forget any of it. I would rather die than forget, if you know what I mean. And she's obviously distraught, but she now has the opportunity to travel herself in her own TARDIS with a Shilder. And like the final kind of moments of Clara where she's in that diner and the Doctor's recovering, he's still got amnesia. He's talking. He basically, Clara is working as a waitress in that kind of diner, which is actually an extended version of her TARDIS. And he's basically talking to her about Clara, but she kind of, he doesn't recognize her face, so he doesn't realize he's talking to Clara, and I think she's kind of very charmed to know that he's remembered her in some ways, and he's still got that fondness about her kind of thing. That she still matters to him in some way. That she's not erased who she was in his life, if you know what I mean. She hasn't raised that impact. She hasn't raised the fact she made that difference in his life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so she decides that she has basically till the rest of time to face her death, and that she can do a lot of time traveling along the way, but eventually she will decide one day, okay, I've lived my life, I've had the adventures, I've had the fun, I'm ready to die now. Yeah, because it's just naturally that's what happens to us all. Yeah, and there comes a point in life where you become tired, but she's not yet. She's got a lot of adventuring to do.
Yeah.
So brave, but there's so much she still doesn't want to miss in life and in the universe and everything. So many wonders to see, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, that's my last word on her anyway. Have you got any more notes on Clara?
No, I think it's good for this time with his live stream. Everything is said.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to everyone who was listening that we didn't get to cover Nardole and Bill Potts, but we will make up for that next time, won't we?
Yeah, because I think the stream will be too long. Actually, this stream was a few weeks ago. We had a stream about Martha Jones and Donna Noble that became very long. I think Bill
Yeah,
Potts is
indeed.
also a personality. Has we need. I think we need at least 1 hour for Bill Potts because he also has some things.
Yeah.
So I
That's,
think
that's,
it's better
that's
to do that for next time. And we can we need more time for Bill Potts and Nardole. So
indeed.
it's good to have a stream only about Clara. So I will change the title of this video. But
All right.
yeah,
Cool.
actually, thank you very much for your explanation about Clara because we need. This is for this channel. This is a sort of encyclopedia for this companion. So uh, people who
Indeed.
are interested in the character of Clara, if you listen to this stream, you need all the things you need to know about Clara. So again, thank you for your contribution, Sadeko.
No problem. And
So
had fun.
yeah, okay. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Okay.
You can find me on YouTube and Discord. So I'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye bye. Bye.
Right.